This is Smart Investing with Mike.wren.
Securities and advisory service offered through KMS Financial Services.
This is Smart Investing with Michael J. Wren. With Michael's producer, Chris Martin. You can email us your questions. Go to smartinvestingshow.com to see how.
For I have the pride, the privilege, nay, the pleasure of introducing to you the one, the only.
This is Smart Investing with Mike.wren.
Well, hello, everybody. Once again, you have booted up another edition of the Smart Investing Show, where we try to take the topic of investing. Number one, we try to get you good, relevant information on each and every show. Number two, we try to make it easier to understand without any jargon, trying to talk in real plain English about investing to you. And thirdly, we try to be entertaining. And with the entertaining portion is Mr. Chris Martin, the producer extraordinaire, the person who makes the shows hopefully not as boring as they for sure otherwise might be. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. I was having a great time.
Good.
Sitting in your lobby of your building with the Ghostbuster jacket on.
Yeah.
Having people looking, couple people.
How many people tried to help you out?
Help me out. Just
out of the building.
I was like, I'll leave the building if you got $1.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them just didn't even have $1, so I got to stay inside.
At least this time you're not wearing your Ronald McDonald outfit.
Or
the Hamburglar.
The floppy shoes make it hard to get into the elevator.
Whatever happened to all those? They just, I guess, McDonald's and the ad agency thought that Ronald McDonald and the Hamburglar and all those didn't appeal. Grimace.
I think Ronald, they tried to be all grown up with their select sandwiches. And look, we're an adult restaurant, so we're getting rid of our clown. Now you're a kid's restaurant. You can say you're an adult restaurant all you want, but...
Well, yeah, but they do have foo-foo coffee now.
They do.
Have you ever had a hot chocolate at McDonald's in like the last year?
No.
Okay. Set aside some time if you want one. Because they don't... To me, the perfect hot cocoa is the hot cocoa that comes out of a machine that has in big letters, release button after cup is 2/3 full. Or
okay.
Sometimes 3/4 full.
So you're talking like it fills it with some powder and some hot water and boom.
And it's good. And my daughter and I happen to think that Silver Mountain's hot cocoa is thicker and creamier than most people's. I mean, when we have it, it's like a dessert.
Okay.
But it's a good dessert. It's like if you were over at Grandma's house and she took more powder than Mom does, and instead of Mom making it thin, somebody makes it with some care and whatever.
I know exactly what you mean because my food warehouse sends them the machines and the powder that they use, and we have those in our break room.
Yeah, and it's good.
It is good.
It is good. It's hard to duplicate it with your own powder packet because you have to add way less water and maybe even some powdered creamer or something. I don't know. It's just better.
Here's a secret I do is I open up the front and I bang the little powder box just a little more so I can get a little more powder out.
Oh, man, dear diary. Use the Arthur Fonzarelli slap to the machine before you press
that machine
on.
Just pops right open.
So if you go to McDonald's, they're going to hand make the sumbitch with chocolate sauce and steam the milk, and it takes forever, and it doesn't.
So it's like a hot chocolate coffee.
No, there's no coffee in it. It just doesn't taste as good. Kind of like even if Starbucks does you hot cocoa, good night.
You made it too fancy.
Yeah. Sometimes you just want a Snickers. Sometimes you just want
a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Yeah, and they have ruined it. So and what's available around here? Maverick stores. They're always wicked clean inside, and Maverick stores have a good hot cocoa machine.
Maverick is the store that I stop by before I do the show at your house.
Yeah,
stop by, get my purple donut and a rock star, and I give the woman that we both know has the tattooed sleeve. Yeah. I wait till she's free so I can pay her the money.
I'm thinking that she's got tattoos over most of her body.
Probably.
Yeah, just yeah.
Would I like to find out? This is not the podcast for me to tell you that.
I don't know. I'm thinking no.
I'm not comfortable with you knowing. I'll just let you know that she's the one that I usually go to when she's there.
I am thinking no. I'll have to tell her that that guy. look for his ankle bracelet. I'm just teasing.
Sir, I'm free over here. That's all right. She has 10 people in front. I'm good.
Well, this podcast took a weird turn. So anyway.
This is about money, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So on today's show, is going to be a shorter show. We're going to, instead of doing 45 or 50 minutes, we're going to do close to 30. And then we're going to do another close to 30 show. Why is that? We're going to do 2 shows back to back. We'll release them a little bit more quickly than usual. We won't maybe make you wait exactly 2 weeks for 2 shows. Chris is going to be gone to some sort of Comic-Con soiree
Yes,
over in Seattle next weekend. So we're going to lose his production capability next week. So we're going to do 2 shows of content because we've been seeing the downloads and the plays and so on actually increase when we make sure that there's content out there. So that's helpful.
And also, thank you guys for spreading the word around. And I mean, every time you give a little review on iTunes or something, it kind of boosts us up so people can see it better. So.
Yeah, a better exposure. It's, I guess it's nice. It's good.
Well, we need the exposure because, let's face it, we're better than the other investment show podcasts. And just, when you
that
have
is one thing. That is one thing. If somebody said to you, would you rather get gobs of business or would you just like to be more well-known for being better than the other investment people that do shows? It's the second.
I am not a snob at most things. I cannot afford to be a snob in some things.
Yeah. This we rock.
This is a
because
way better.
we know where the rubber meets the road. And speaking of that, today's show is going to have a heck of a lot of rubber in it because we're going to be talking about income in retirement. Income when you don't work so much anymore. Maybe you don't work at all. Income from your investments, from all the money that you've scabbed together over the years. How do you take income from that? And I have to tell you that this is where this is one of the many big areas. I don't know if it's the biggest. The biggest area where people will make mistakes is their behavior. That's easy. That's boom. That's always the reason. But typically, your bad behavior as an investor usually crops up when there is an occasion for it to crop up. One occasion would be the market going down. That's going to let you behave poorly. It's going to make you want to behave poorly. Let's say the market's shooting up. That's going to be another way that a lot of people would take that as an opportunity to screw themselves. Income in retirement. When somebody's thinking about living on income and they're not going to be working anymore, it's extremely stressful. And most people don't even give it a thought of how to get income they don't think about how to get income from their investment portfolio, or if they do, it's very confusing. Can be an individual account, an IRA account, 401k, simple IRA, Roth, any sort of an account. When you're thinking about taking income from it in retirement, it's a pretty straightforward process. But most people don't think in that process, and my industry tends to not think of that process. They tend to compartmentalize it. It's like, I want this car that has this options and these features to get me to retirement. And then when I'm in retirement, when I'm actually wanting income, I want this different car that does this different thing for retirement. That's what I tend to think of the vast majority of people, how they think. And guess what? It's how my industry tries to sell stuff to you as well. It's how they try to sell their advice as well. It's like, okay, this is your accumulation phase, is what the insurance people say, or the annuity people, and this is your payout phase. They're 2 distinct phases, and you really want to behave, one's way different from the other. And I'm here to tell you that they're not that different, because I'm not trying to sell you some plan. I'm not trying to sell you some product. I'm not trying to sell you some specific strategy. If you already know how to behave well, you already know how to behave well. You don't need an extra set of things. If you're already in shape and eat well and not overweight, you don't need to change that behavior when you retire. If you're a good investor and you think correctly before you retire, you don't have to change that thinking. But most people, they don't think that way. We know that most of the behavior, most of the thinking, at least in my opinion, is off base. So it's a pretty straightforward process when you're thinking about taking income from all this money that you've accumulated. And it's extremely stressful. Let me kind of go through it a little bit. First, what most competitors do is they say you need, like I mentioned before, you need a certain product to get the job done. A product that concentrates on an interest rate that you're going to be able to take out. And some product that says, hey, it pays you this much per year in income and you can take that. That's what most people think. Like I just described to you, it's a thought process. They're thinking, okay, I have to make sure that my stuff's in certain places where it's got a stated interest rate so I can take that interest rate out and spend it. And so right then, I don't think that that's a proper way to think. What would I do? Let me make a note of it, and we might do it on the following show. Let me just say how to, think, income. There we go. So my industry wants to sell you a product that supposedly does everything for you in retirement. And you, being the investor, you're typically thinking, hey, I want something that does the retirement thing for me. There should be something out there in this great land of capitalism that if I buy it, it's going to give me what I need. Everybody would like you to think that, and maybe your income needs are so low and maybe you're okay with insurance products and so on. Maybe you actually do want to have a product that has certain guarantees. Maybe you do want to try to buy something that in effect will create you a guaranteed income stream for the rest of your life. Maybe kind of like you're winning your own little personal lottery where you're taking all this money and you're seeing what kind of a guarantee that you can live on that for the rest of your life, and then you just live in that guarantee. That's fine. It's not what I do typically. I can do it. It's not what I recommend typically because I think it leaves a lot of performance on the table. But then again, when you're thinking of taking income in retirement, you've lived a while. You've lived through a few things. As long as you don't outlive your money, the performance factor might not be all that important. You know what I mean, Chris?
No.
Yeah, I mean, when somebody's thinking of retiring, maybe they're just thinking of being able to do stuff and they just don't want to be messed with. They just want this income. Maybe, they've already got their bass boat. They already have their favorite fishing holes. Maybe that's what they want. And again, that makes sense to me because I've said on other shows that I'm a realist. I realize that the vast majority of people out in the United States or in the world aren't investors, should not be investors, and don't want to be investors. They just want a check per month and not have to worry about it.
And also, I think while you're working up until retirement, that's all you've done is worry about money.
Yeah.
Your next paycheck, who's going to pay you, blah, blah, blah. Once you retire, I don't want to think about anything that has to do with money.
You're very, very right. I was thinking about that on the periphery, but it's actually more front of mind of everybody. Yeah, maybe somebody wants to buy one of these products so they can just kind of wipe their hands of the situation. Mm-hmm. I can get that. It's not that they're bad. It's just that my competitors and the insurance people, I believe, don't frame their products in a realistic way. They will either concentrate too much on the fear factor. Like, oh my God, in case this happens, you can have this. Oh my God, if this happens, this will protect you. If that happens, this will protect you. So they're always focusing on the negative. Or what they're doing is they're saying, you can have this protection and you can still get some kind of quasi, they usually say stock market performance. That ain't going to happen. Okay? I don't agree. I don't think that there's enough performance in these products to talk about. Yet they're trying to put all of these features and benefits on a wall, so you will buy it.
Well, it's kind of like when a movie trailer comes out,
yeah,
and you'll see one movie trailer that shows that the same show is like scary, but then another trailer will come out and the same movie is funny. It's like they're trying to appeal to everybody.
Yeah,
okay.
That's exactly what the insurance products are going to do. And let me tell you, I personally don't like them because of the dogma, the thought process, the rabid way that I believe that they are portrayed and tried to be sold to everybody, and the damn stuck-upness of the people that sell the things, how they walk like they've got something shoved up their keister all the way out a nostril, and they think that their you-know-what doesn't stink, and they act like they have...
That's where you draw the line?
Yeah. That,
you-know-what doesn't stink?
Yeah, and that they act like they've got the answers for everything, and somebody like that, if you're actually wise and look inside and you know yourself, you know that the more that they act like that, the more that they don't know anything. So that's what really gets me. It's the people, it's the process, it's everything.
It's the guy who looks like he just came down from the mountain to tell you wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. So effing high and mighty. And it's like they look at, I don't even believe that you would deal with something that has volatility to it because, nobody wants it. Yeah, just...
People who start statements with, well, actually.
Yeah. So, believe it or not, I would be okay more with the insurance industry as a whole and the people that sold the things. I'm included in one of them, but it's been a decade since I've dealt with anything like that or more. I would be okay with it if you're approaching it on a needs basis, not on me telling you this is how awesome it is. It's like you tell me, what are you scared of? Maybe you're like Chris said. Maybe you've thought about money and pinching pennies your whole life, and this is one damn time you just want to have something carved in stone. It's guaranteed, and you're good to go. I can accept that. I think it's healthy. You just got to know yourself. You got to know, and then they'll say, well, maybe you want some portion to be guaranteed and some portion. Yeah, that's a little bit of Vietnam to me because it's hard for somebody to be a realistic investor on one hand and be a skittish willy-nilly on the other and want a guarantee. It's usually they don't know themselves, so they're just trying to have a foot on each island till they find out who the hell they really are. And so that to me, it's one of the wonderful sales techniques of my industry that says, oh, and you can have this too. Well, usually a person's all one color, okay? They're all one thought process. They're all one thematic situation of their emotions. Usually they're not bipolar. They're not so diversified into how they feel about things. Usually there's kind of one theme going on that they're either very comfortable with volatility or not comfortable with volatility, or they don't know. But anyway, so I would be okay if people would actually be real and say, I want this just because I don't want any worries. Okay, did you see how we went from going from income from your portfolio? Do you see how this talk went immediately to emotion? I've thought about money, and I don't want to think about it again. Okay? Here's what else happens. You've been accumulating your money with whatever type of an investment, and you're looking at the principal on your statement. This is right when you're having the talk with yourself, okay, I want to start I'm going to need to plan for income from my retirement, for my retirement. And so you're looking at your statement, and the thing that you're concentrating on is your principal going up and down. You're looking at the big number on the statement. Don't you think that's right, Chris? That's what people look at.
It's kind of all you. I'm going to say 80-90%.
That's all they're looking at.
At least that's the first thing they look at.
Okay, well, what about that big amount? Really, for most people, is going to tell you anything about the level of income that you might be thinking of or needing or able to generate. It's not. All of a sudden, the balance on your statement's got you. It's got you by the throat. And all of a sudden, you go from thinking emotionally, okay, income and retirement. Oh, here's the balance. Well, what was the balance last month? What was the balance last year? What was the balance 5 years ago? How much money did I put in? How much real growth did I get? Do you see how it's like a stair step of emotions where you're falling down this emotional staircase and it's like, oh, God, where nothing feels good because people, they can't even get past the point of, most folks anyway, most of the time you can't get past the point of your principal's been fluctuating and it drives you crazy. Did it go up a lot? Did it go down? Does it go up? Oh, that's good. Does it go down? Oh, that was bad. And then you start to think, well, shit, if it went up, that means it could go down. You kind of back yourself into a corner that it's like, if it goes up, that's not good either because I just know that it's going to go down some point in the future too. You see what I mean? Yeah. I think that's normal human behavior for most everybody.
Well, we're creatures of habit.
Yeah.
We need things. We need stability. We need, if you have a coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning, you need your coffee at 8 o'clock in the morning every time. And when you don't, you feel off. Yeah. So when let's say you get a paycheck and say it's $1,000 every month, you get $1,000 paycheck. And then one month it's like $998. Well, why is that? Or it's like $1,001. Well, what changed? What's going on? Did the accountant screw up? And it's just that normal. And it could be slightly smaller or higher. You're still like, this is not normal. This is not normal.
Well, it's not what I want. So anyway, you're looking at your principal. Did it go up? Oh, that's good. Did it go down? Oh, crap. Oh, no. But if it goes up, if it goes down, I don't want the up. Oh, I do want the up, but I don't want the down. But if I take the up, that means I got to take the down. I don't like any of that. Where's my mom? Where's my parents? And
Mom, where's the Melo?
And then it's like, sorry about that.
We don't have a cough button.
Oh, okay. Well, note to self.
I'll just pretend to push something.
So anyway, then you start to think, well, maybe I just want my stuff to stay even. Yeah, then I can plan. I can deal with it. I can understand. That doesn't scare me. Okay, so how many minutes or hours or days or weeks of month have passed when you, the human being, has gone through this in your head, and I just started an anxiety circle for you, probably, where one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another, where your heart rate's gone up, your pupils have been dilated, you start to bringing up what you think are memories, but that's just your brain firing in its synapse in any sort of way to try to make the anxiety go away. Because when we're cave people, usually anxiety is, where's the water, where's the food, where's shelter, where did that big saber tooth just go? That's the type of stuff, okay? This isn't that. But your brain, it's releasing the same hormones as it would have 1,000,000 years ago. So there you go. I created this anxiety situation for you. So what about any of this has even started to think about actual income yet to you? Nothing. This has all been a spin of your emotions. I did it on purpose. It's what happens to everybody all the time. It's even easy for me to hop in the circle of these emotions because I have to do it almost every day, for sure weekly, with clients. It's always pretty much the same, and that tells me how strong it is and how homogeneous behavior of a population is. So finally now that we maybe have slowed down the anxiety a little bit, now we're finally thinking about income. So obviously we're probably kind of beat ourselves to a point where we don't want it to go up, principal to go up. We don't really want it to go down. Okay, we want it to stay the same. That's not optimal, but it is feeling kind of okay. Okay, what's the highest interest rate I can get? That's what you're thinking of. It's like, okay, if I'm going to keep this money the same, I need to find things, products, investments, stuff that this industry talks about. I need to have the highest interest rate possible or one that I can count on. So let's look to see what the advertised interest rates are. So you could put it at a bank, and a CD is probably a little bit over 1%. Let's see. Maybe we can put it in a government bond and a 30. Here's my numbers. 30-year government treasury, will pay you about 3.037% each year for 30 years. 10-year Treasury bond, 2.64%. Corporate bonds, if they're going to be investment rated, about 3.75. A 10-year municipal bond, anywhere from 2.1 to 2.5. A 20-year muni bond from 2.8 to 3.3. A 30-year muni bond, 2.95 to 3.45, somewhere in there. Those aren't very big numbers at all. The municipal bond, by the way, those are tax-free. So the interest that you earn on it, typically you don't pay any tax on it. So, okay, those aren't very big numbers. So you better have everything paid off. And then you're thinking, those aren't that big of numbers, so even if I wanted a new bass boat in 10 years before I turn 75, I'd like a new something. Well, all of a sudden, things start stopping. It's like, this doesn't feel good either. Interest rates are really, really low. And so then you start to, so anytime anybody holds a bigger number out there as far as interest rate, you are going to gravitate to that number. And I've got to tell you, the annuity companies out there with their equity indexed annuities and variable annuities with living benefits, they've got in certain ways what they will call guaranteed accumulation rates and guaranteed payout rates. They're higher than all of these numbers than I just said. So that's why they catch people's attention, because they just went through an anxiety-filled situation of either minutes or months, and then they finally got away enough from the anxiety and said, okay, I'm just going to take a baby step and look at what kind of interest rates, quote unquote, that I can get on my money. They're not very good. Then all of a sudden they see some advertisement in a newspaper, on the internet, on the TV, who knows where, that it's like, oh, this thing that's from the insurance company, they had a 5% number on that thing. They had a 6% number. Well, damn. I think that I want to do that because it's a higher interest rate. You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's human instinct, I guess.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. How many more minutes do we have in this podcast?
Let's say 5.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this podcast of what everybody does, and then the next podcast is going to be what I do, how I approach the situation. So that's pretty, in a sense, that's pretty much it.
Isn't it kind of just the motto is grass is always greener? That's kind of what you.
Well,
I see that's a little. Well, that's a little better. Well, that's a little
kind of, but it's not. We're dealing with a situation where they don't even. The typical investor isn't even comfortable enough to even really like the grass on the other side. That's the situation, is when you're anxiety filled and you've been working your whole life and now you're not going to work and you're worried about having enough money, that's huge. So I tell people that's a pretty big change. Maybe you want to work less. You'll notice if the astute listener will, I typically always try to fudge the word retirement, and I'll add words before it or after it or call it something different. I'll usually say when you're planning on working a lot less or maybe planning on working not at all, I'll typically use those sentences and those words and phrases and not use the word retirement because it's so unique and different to most people out there. And most people's feelings. I was dealing with a client this week where the wife of the couple was telling me, I've always worked. I've always had, not now, but in my past, I've had 2 jobs at once, making sure that we made enough money. And now when it comes to April, I'm not going to be working after that. And how different can you get from that? The person is 60 some odd years old. When did they start their working life? Probably 18, I'm thinking. 19?
Some generations 14.
Yeah, so you're talking 40 some odd years of a single behavior that you're thinking of stopping. Well, you better think about that a little bit. You might not be happy at all. You might literally have to win the Powerball in order to emotionally be okay with that. So maybe you want to think about what you could do part-time and ease your way into retirement instead of jumping out of an airplane to do it. It's like, maybe start it slow. You got to kind of positive reinforce yourself. If I'm going to try to get somebody to jump out of an airplane, to lose weight, to run a marathon, to behave correctly with their investments, I want to kind of start small, don't I? Don't I want to do it in small steps? Wouldn't that be okay? So we can have some intermediate successes, some beginning successes. It's like, see, you didn't panic out, you didn't die, or you're dealing with an anxiety of somebody going to a dentist. If you didn't have to worry about taking up somebody's time, wouldn't you start by just going in the building? Wouldn't you start by just walking by all the rooms, kind of peering in? We're dealing with fear here. We're dealing with primal fear in a lot of ways. And you've got to approach it kind of carefully, I think. So it's a positive experience. So not only can you have a good retirement with enough money, but you can feel good in retirement. Your emotions are in check. Make your emotions work for you instead of against you. And when you have an industry that's completely trying to use your emotions, the fear part of them, and trying to say, we know that you're scared, but if you buy this, you won't be scared. To me, that's just like saying, you're fat, and if you take this pill, you're not going to be fat anymore. And I don't think there's a lot of value to either one of those. Do you think I said it too harshly, or I think it's plain enough?
I think that's why people tune in, is because you do it too harshly. I mean,
all 8 of them? Yeah. 9 now. 9. We're up to 9. So anyway, let's cut this show off because I don't want to ramble and talk about, nothing. And the next show will boot up here in a few minutes, and we'll talk about the way that I approach retirement. And obviously, these 2 smaller shows are meant to be listened to fairly. Once you listen to one, you'll be really wanting the other one. Okay, so we'll be back again next week with another show.
Any opinions expressed herein are given in good faith and are subject to change without notice and are correct only on the stated date of issue. Past performance is not always indicative of future results. This material is not intended as an offer or solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security or other financial instrument. Security, financial instruments, or strategies mentioned may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, or income from any investment mentioned in this report may fall against the interest of the investor, and the investor may get back less than the amount invested. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as a recommendation of particular securities, financial instruments, or strategies to you. Before acting on any recommendation on this material, you should consider whether it is suitable for your particular circumstances, and if necessary, seek professional advice.